The gavel of her designer heel echoed like a death nail through the cavernous penthouse. Each click a reminder of the hollow victory her life had become. Ellerance, the woman who commanded boardrooms with a whisper and whose name sent ripples through the stock market, stood utterly defeated before a wall of floor-to-ceiling glass. The glittering city below a tapestry of lights she owned but could not feel. A single bitter tear traced a path through her perfectly applied makeup. The man her socialite mother had arranged for her to meet. A hedge fund heir had just left, his parting words still hanging in the air like poison. A woman of your advanced age and standing shouldn't waste time with pretenses. My financial team will be in touch. He hadn't seen her, only her balance sheet. This was the fifth one. 5 blind dates. 5 men who saw a merger, not a marriage. A desperate, radical idea born of profound loneliness began to take root in her heart. She would strip it all away. The power, the prestige, the Prada. She would become someone else to find someone real. If your heart has ever asked for a second chance, if you still believe in the power of raw, unvarnished kindness, then do R a favor, like, comment, and share this story, and subscribe to Act of Kindness to remind the world that true love sees the soul, not the salary. The following week, Ara, now Lara, sat in a modest cafe, the scent of roasted coffee and baked goods. A world away from the sterile air-conditioned lounges she was accustomed to. Her clothes were simple, a thrift store sweater and faded jeans. Her first date, a charismatic lawyer, spent the hour bragging about his wins before his phone buzzed with a critical case. The moment she mentioned working a low-wage job. The second, a handsome entrepreneur, excused himself to the restroom and never returned after she accidentally spilled water on her cheap handbag. A crushing sense of futility settled over her. Perhaps her mother was right. Perhaps this world only understood the language of transaction. Her last hope was a man named Kalen. Her assistant's file was sparse. A mechanic, a widower, a single father. She expected another no-show. But he came. He arrived slightly breathless, his hands bearing the faint, stubborn traces of grease no scrub brush could ever fully erase. Apologizing for being 5 minutes late because his daughter Iris had a minor meltasm over mismatched socks. He wasn't dressed to impress. He was dressed for life, and his eyes, they were the kindest had ever seen, holding a quiet sorrow that mirrored the one she hid behind her corporate mask. He didn't monologue. He asked questions. He listened. Truly listened as Lara spun her tale of working 2 jobs and dreaming of going back to school. He spoke of his daughter with a love so fierce and pure it made chest tighten. He talked about the struggle of raising a creative, sensitive child alone, the fear of not being enough, the small, precious moments that made it all worthwhile. There was no pretense, no performance. It was the most real conversation she'd had in a decade. Their date stretched from coffee to a walk in the park. He pointed out the shapes of the clouds, describing the epic dragon and castle battle his daughter would have narrated. When a sudden downpour sent other couples scattering, Kalen just laughed, a warm, genuine sound, and offered his worn jacket, more concerned with her getting cold than his own comfort. Sitting with him under a band, the rain creating a curtain around them, felt a terrifying, wonderful crack in the fortress around her heart. Here was a man who had every reason to be cynical, to be hardened by life's cruelties. Yet he radiated a gentle, steadfast strength. He saw a struggling woman in a thrift store sweater and offered not pity but partnership in conversation, a shared umbrella in a storm. The guilt began to gnaw at her, a sharp, persistent tooth. This beautiful, honest connection was built on a lie. The true test came a week later. Kalen, with a nervous hope in his voice, invited her to his apartment for a dinner that Iris had helped plan. The building was humble, the walls thin, but the home was filled with love. Drawings of fantastical creatures covered the refrigerator. The table was set with a lopsided glitter-glued centerpiece Iris had made. The meal was simple pasta, slightly overcooked, but served with more pride than any 5-star meal had ever eaten. Iris, a bright 7-year-old, looked at her father with pure adoration and then with the terrifying trust of a child, handed a drawing of the 3 of them holding hands under a rainbow. "So, Daddy doesn't have to be lonely anymore," she whispered. In that moment, surrounded by the profound, unassuming beauty of their life, the lie became unbearable. She was an imposter in a sacred space. As Kalen walked her to her bus stop, his hand gently brushing hers, he looked at her and said, "Lara, I know it's fast, and I know our lives are different, but I haven't felt this kind of light in so long." The raw hope in his eyes shattered her. Under the glow of a street lamp, with the city's distant hum as their witness, stopped. Tears she could no longer control streamed down her face, washing away the last of her ficid. "Now," she whispered, her voice breaking. "My name isn't Lara, it's Vance." She watched as the name registered as his kind, confused eyes flickered with recognition of the billionaire CEO constantly in the news. The hurt that dawned on his face was a physical blow. "I'm so sorry," she choked out, the full weight of her deception crashing down. "I was so tired of being loved for my money and not for me. I just wanted someone to see me, and you did. You were the only one who ever did." She stood there exposed and vulnerable, a queen dethroned, waiting for the judgment she deserved. Her heart and her future hanging in the balance between truth and the beautiful, fragile trust she had just broken. If this story has touched your heart, if you believe in the power of a truth told too late, then please let us know in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that everyone has a story behind the mask they wear. What would you do if you were Kalen? Could you forgive such a deception? Share your thoughts in the comments below. He didn't speak. He just looked at her, the CEO and the struggling single mother, the lie and the truth warring in his gaze. And then slowly he reached out, not to push her away, but to wipe a tear from her cheek with his calloused thumb. "Ara," he said, her real name a soft prayer on his lips. "The woman who talked with me in the rain, who made my daughter laugh, was that her or was that the CEO?" It was the only question that mattered. And as looked into the eyes of the only man who had ever passed her test without even knowing he was taking it, she knew her fate had irrevocably changed. Her journey to earn his forgiveness for a second chance built on the ruins of her first great lie was just